the Quinn Marr Show.
My next guest became part of two massive Disney Channel storylines. He played Gary Wilde on Shake It Up and had an important role in the love plot of Hannah Montana. Let's be honest, getting involved in Miley Stewart's world romantically is never low stakes. Beyond Disney, he showed serious range by playing multiple characters on the long-running soap opera One Life to Live, which is basically a masterclass in versatility. It is my pleasure to welcome to the Quinn Marr Show, R.Brandon Johnson. Brandon, how's it going?
It's going really good, buddy, and you know why it's going really good.
I do. For you,
USA. USA.
Terrible.
Sorry to rub it in, bro.
It's all right. So this is going to come out 48 hours after that crushing loss. But oh my God. My wife was taking videos of me just like standing up 2 inches away from the TV, yelling, sweating.
Oh, yeah. Me too. We had a live stream. We should have just done the live stream watching the game, man.
That would have been insane.
And look, hey, like hats off to Canada. I mean, the ice was really tilted in their end for a lot of the time. I mean, meaning I should say it's tilted in the USA's end. I mean, that incredible efforts. So the game probably should have been 4-1, but Hellebuck played just a phenomenal, just a masterclass in goaltending. It was incredible. And ironically, he plays for the Winnipeg Jets, right?
I know, and I was just saying to my dad during the game that like he's usually the guy that kind of craps the bed in the playoffs with the Jets. I was like, please give us that Hellebuck today. That's all we need. And it was the opposite. He was a brick wall. So no, congrats to US. That was quite stings. So it's been a few hours since the game ended, but I thankfully went to the gym to get out some of my frustrations. So we'll see you guys again in 4 years.
Oh yeah, you sure will.
Just kind of to talk about you, and this is what I found kind of interesting right off the hop was if you search up your name, it's R.Brandon Johnson. Correct. And was the R, like, did you make it that way? Because was that like a SAG thing?
Correct. Yes. Okay. There is another, this is a really interesting story too. And it does kind of bleed into a little bit of our Disney discussion, but so there was an actor, there's an African-American actor. He's a comedian as well. His name is R.Brandon Johnson. And so when I was in New York and he was still in Los Angeles, the very early days of IMDb, we would get some of our credits would overlap, but we both sort of knew each other. And as time went on, eventually I came out to Los Angeles officially in 2006 was when I made my move and started auditioning out here. And I always recall this moment where I was signing in to I don't think it was Hannah Montana, but it might have been it was just some other Disney show. Mm-hmm. And I looked at the call sheet that we were signing into, I should say, sign-in sheet. And I looked down and there was a guy, it said R.Brandon Johnson. And I very slowly turned to my right and I saw this African-American guy walking. He was like 30 feet away. And I go, Brandon! And he stops and he turns. And it was this, Rocky III, Apollo Creed, Rocky Balboa on the beach running. We just ran and we grabbed each other. We hugged each other. And I was like, I'm Brandon Johnson,
And he goes, so am I.
He goes, so am I. We were like so pumped. And then from that day on, we were just crossing paths here and there. I literally went into audition for, actually, I got a gig for Star Wars, The Republic video game, VO, long time ago. And I remember walking into the session and everybody's face or their jaws just dropped. And they're like, I'm like, you wanted the other one, didn't you?
And they're like, and then the other guy.
Huh. They're like, well, since you're here, but and I had experience in VO, so it wasn't like a total shock to them, but it ended up working out. But there's an example of how our lives had crossed over multiple times. I got nothing but mad respect for him. He's a phenomenal talent. So that was a fun moment for us.
So what is your actual born name?
Sure.
Your full name.
My first name is Richard.
Okay.
So I ended up being Dick Johnson. Oh. And I'd rather not. Yeah. My grandfather was Richard. My dad was Richard. So I'm Richard III. Okay. But I have always considered myself a Brandon. And so my original name or OG original name was supposed to be Jason Matthew. And my mother was at the vet and at that point pregnant. And then she heard someone say the name Brandon. And at the time in the 80s, it just wasn't a common name. And so she leaned in with that as my middle name. And so, yes, going back into SAG after all this stuff, I had to be they're like, do you want to be Brandon R. Johnson? And I'm like, no, just do R.Brandon Johnson, and it's a bit odd, but that from that day forward, whenever that name came forward, R.Brandon Johnson, everybody would know, oh, it's that one.
Got you.
So
Okay.
that's
That
kind of
makes
why. But
sense.
I literally get emails like saying, "Dear R."
I did that when I asked you to come on the show,
Yeah.
and I commented on your Instagram post. I said, hey, R.Brandon
What are you
Johnson.
gonna
I said
do?
your full name because I was like, I don't know what name to use.
I know.
Yeah.
So my apologies for that, but
hey, no, it's not. That's not
all
you.
good.
It's kind of like I had Eric Allen Kramer on last year, who obviously played Bob Duncan on Good Luck Charlie, and I even asked him the same thing. I was like, "Do you want me to say Eric Allen Kramer? You want me to say Eric Kramer?" And he said the same thing. It's just in the SAG that someone was already Eric Kramer, so he just added his middle name.
Yeah, it's not like people would call Philip Seymour Hoffman Seymour. What's up, Seymour? No, it was never. It was always Philip. Rest in peace.
Mm-hmm.
Just such an amazing man. I'd see him in New York all the time. Met him a few times.
That's cool.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I loved him in Moneyball when he was the manager on the Athletic.
Everything that guy does. Dude, I saw Philip Seymour Hoffman and John C. Reilly at Theater in the Square, Circle in the Square in New York City. I was front row and I saw them flip the roles. And I literally had a moment, there's, not giving anything away, but in this play in True West, John C. Reilly's character ends up like choking him. And Philip was about 3 feet from my face. And I've got Philip staring at me like, just a piece of toast would land in my lap. I mean, that is the power in just of living in New York City and going to live theater. And I saw him in Long Day's Journey into Night, like 2 rows. I mean, I have such reverence for New York City, and my whole acting career really did begin in theater, but coming into New York City and seeing the greats 3 feet in front of you is awe-inspiring.
That is amazing. That's such a cool memory to have. Wow.
Very,
Unreal.
very lucky.
We quickly talked about this before we started recording, and I want to get into it because I don't fully know the story. So, you obviously grew up in Bloomington, Minnesota, and what I kind of noticed about you, and I think you kind of have a little bit of a story on this, is that most guests I have, they started acting young, they're in whatever roles. Their IMDb starts when they're in they're under the 10 years old or even teens, etc. For you, I noticed it started way later. So can we kind of go back to Bloomington and talk about even what kind of kid were you? If I met a 9-year-old Brandon Johnson, what would I see first?
You'd see a Tasmanian devil.
I love that. Hey, it sounds like me.
Yeah, right. No, I still am a very spirited child. My youth was truly surrounded around hockey. In Minnesota, I always say this, you come out of the womb, they put skates on your feet. So at that time, and I lived literally next to a park with outdoor rinks. So I could put my skates on and I could walk down to the rink, and I'd be down there for 8 hours. And then if I had to come home for, say, dinner or something, my mother would turn on, we had these outdoor floodlights that would flash, and that meant come home.
Oh, no. So, kind of like a lighthouse type thing. That's pretty cool. Wow.
1,000%. Yeah, exactly. So my youth began around that. And I was very much a part of a special group of players that we all came up together. And many of them went pro. And we ended up, there was a documentary made about us in 1992. They followed us for a year. We were a super team. And we won the Minnesota State High School Hockey Tournament. It was exactly what you just saw a few hours ago, the dream of every child to be able to do that in Minnesota. It's where all the D1 scouts come. It's where all the NHL scouts come. It's broadcast North, South Dakota, Iowa, Wisconsin. It's massive. It's a huge stage at the St. Paul Civic Center at the time. And I actually was very close to getting the movie Miracle because because I took that documentary and I walked into casting and I threw it on their desk first meeting and said, you will never meet anybody more authentic and more real than this guy right here. Because I was coached by Tom Satterdalen, who was the assistant coach to Herb Brooks, who coached the 1980 Lake Placid team. So when you watch that movie, and I know this is a long-winded answer, but when you watch that movie, that is me. in here to a core. They filmed in the exact arenas where I played growing up. And I went back 7 times for that film, and I did not get it. There's probably 2 auditions in my life where I hit my knees, bawled my eyes out. I was so destroyed because it was just so close to me.
What player were you auditioning for on the team?
Multiple
okay.
players. Multiple players. I in my heart, I think I wanted to be probably Mark Johnson because of our last names, or maybe Neil Broughton because he played on the Minnesota North Stars, or, but Dave Christensen, it didn't matter. I just wanted to be in that so bad. But many years had kind of passed from that time when I was auditioning for that. So I wasn't necessarily as sharp as I was at that time. And ultimately, while they were casting actors who could play hockey, they ended up kind of flipping it and going more with hockey players and try to get them to act, because the choreography and technicality of what they were shooting was so specific. Mm-hmm. You had to repeat the same action over and over and over again. So I get it. It's still just one of the most amazing films. So anyways, the little 9-year-old was downstairs in a very cold basement in Minnesota with red shag carpeting, my father to my left in a weird blue chair, and I'm watching USA play the Soviets, and they win. And I say to myself inside, that is what I'm going to do with my life. I will be on that team. And didn't happen.
I love that, though. That's amazing. That's so different from like so many guests I have on here, because like a lot of them, it was always entertaining, nothing else. Like it was always that industry. So like, did your parents do anything career wise? Were they into sports? Were they entertaining, anything like that? Or just like you kind of were on your own little island?
Well, good question. My father, in his youth, right around when he was in his teens, he was a very talented football player, baseball player, and hockey player. And I think he did have great opportunities to do something. However, when he was 18, he was in a horrible, horrible car accident, and he was T-boned. He was shotgunned. He flew out into the intersection, and then I think he got hit by another car coming the other way, and essentially had 99% chance that he would not survive, and he did.
Wow.
And so when those opportunities were sort of taken away from him, and then he had a son that started to exude a lot of natural talent and drive and grit, I think that, a lot of focus was put into that. Now, I will say that while in elementary school, I was, and still to this day, a bit of a class clown. And I did my first play when I was in 4th grade. Old Father Christmas was my role, and a bit of a ham and stuff. But I do remember getting off the stage and my 4th grade teacher, Mr. Tomaszek, turning to me saying, "You may want to think about doing this." And I was like, "I just want to play hockey. No, thank you." And
that's
I really
a big thing to say to a kid so young.
Yeah, like they saw something then.
Yeah,
but I didn't want to do it. And I was still very much involved in just your classic cliche Bloomington, suburbia, Minnesota sports. And that's how I connected with our friends. We did not have devices or any things that we have today. We just got together and we just played outside forever. And then slowly, it really wasn't until, I was doing things in high school. I was like your morning announcer. I was doing interpersonal communications. I was learning how to be on camera. I thought maybe I'd be a broadcaster or something at some point, but once I graduated and decided to figure out what kind of career I was going to have, went to college, I started off as a communications major. But I also went out and partied every Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And for the first semester, I was put on academic probation.
Oh my! Really?
I almost got booted. I almost got kicked out. And so
my God.
I had to refocus, so to speak. Mm-hmm. And that's when I was like, well, I could probably just be an actor, right? I mean, it's not so hard. Well, rather be a brain surgeon. Once you pursue that as your sort of craft, I was a comprehensive theater major. So not only was I studying acting, but I was studying wardrobe, makeup, scenic and lighting design, stage crafting, directing. I just got it all. Yeah. And that became incredibly time consuming. Then going to college, I was also playing in a band. I'm a musician, so I managed the band, did tours for the band, I did all that. And then I was working at Mancino's Pizza and Grinders trying to make ends meet.
Did you ever sleep? Like, how do you do all that stuff at the same time? Holy crap.
I know. I think, my lead singer at one point he handed me a book, and the book was titled Burnout. And I think it is just in my nature to really squeeze the lemon of life. And it's a philosophy that I still have. And it's whether it be an asset or a deficit in my life, I am somebody that is hyper aware of right now. And I really try to, I just constantly keep touching the stove. I'm very passionate just about life. I'm healthy. I'm very grateful to be healthy. And so because of that, I just want to do it all. I want to try it all. And so, it's still to this day, my journey continues. I'm trying different things in my career. And so it's been, I'd like to think that it's really just been a full spectrum of good and bad, but along the lines, it's just been a phenomenal learning experience. And I think without contrast and challenge, one doesn't grow, and you don't get to see really what you're made of. So it's just all part of the story. From hockey to acting to whatever it may be, And
it's such a unique story too. Like I said, like I haven't talked to many people that have had their careers go that way, with like starting with sports, mixing in entertaining, and then kind of taking it from there. Yeah.
Well, I will always say that one of the reasons why kind of throughout my career, I was able to keep going at the darkest moments was because of hockey, because I'd always get knocked down, but I'd have to get back up and knock down, get up, knock down, get up. I played on multiple all-star teams. I played all throughout the United States. I played all throughout Canada, played in Winnipeg, Thunder Bay, Sarnia, Ontario, Vancouver, you name it. And it taught me perseverance and resilience, and just, my chin is ripped apart, probably cut this open 25 times. My nose is broken. It's flat, broke that 3 times. I used my hockey experience to toughen up at times and move through whatever challenge may be there. I still am at times quite stubborn. I'm a Capricorn. I am very driven, very ambitious, and I just have a hard time accepting no.
Good. I love that. Do you have siblings?
No, I'm an only child.
Okay, interesting.
So because of that too, I kind of carried metaphorically, and that was my own choice. I wasn't asked to, but I did carry a lot of that on my shoulders as a young boy and all throughout my life, trying to maybe at times be this sort of hero, if you will. I know that there was lots of people in my family that didn't have certain opportunities, and I was just very focused that if given the opportunity, I would take advantage of it. And my mother and father made tremendous sacrifices so that I could live and experience the dream that I spoke of. And I felt compelled to pay them back in some way. And I hope that I've made them a little proud.
That's awesome. I love that. So then going from doing theater and stuff, now correct me if I'm wrong, but like your first credit technically on IMDb, not always 100% true, but was an episode of Dave's World where you played Billy. Is that true?
So no, it's not. That's Brandon's credit.
Oh, that really?
Yeah. Okay. That's not my credit because I wasn't in LA yet.
Oh yeah, true. Yeah.
So a couple of those early credits are not mine.
Huh. Third Rock from the Sun. Was that you?
That was Brandon.
Boston Public? One episode it says.
No, that was Brandon. Yeah.
Oh my! That's crazy. That
those were all his. They all got baked into mine, and they can be removed and switched at any time.
Huh. Yeah, actually, I've been like an IMDb guy for as long as I can remember.
Yeah.
How does that work for someone that's on IMDb? Like, can you physically go on there and change stuff?
If you're IMDb Pro, you can select to change a credit, and then they have to verify it. So technically, he could do that. I really don't even remember what my very first IMDb credit was.
Okay, what do you remember then? Like the first time you're on like a real set. Then let's go from there.
Yeah. A real set. Wow.
I know.
Well, I started out, with regards to acting, and it's kind of the typical trajectory as far as on camera goes, is working in commercials or then maybe doing little, I did a lot of NYC grad films, trying to build a reel. I did, just boatloads and boatloads of commercials. And then once you get kind of some momentum and you can present, then you get representation, and then you start getting out into legitimate opportunities. Okay. And then you can start to graduate into, whatever you need to do to get an agent, get a theatrical agent. I mean, again, going back to where I was, and you were right about, I was a late bloomer. Yeah. I didn't really start acting professionally until my early 20s because I was focused. I originally went to New York City to play for a band called Diffuser on Hollywood Records. I had sold my Camaro, bought a one-way ticket to New York. The band that I was playing with in Minnesota, we were at a really interesting point. We had done multiple records, lots of success in LA and New York, and I wanted to go. And I think they wanted to just remain sort of big fishes in a small pond. And I was just way too ambitious. And so I started talking with this other band that we'd played shows with, and their drummer was potentially leaving. And so 24 hours before I was to leave from New York, they called and said, no, we're going to stick with our older drummer. And I'm like, well, I've already, and so I ended up just literally selling everything and going there with just, a big dream. I was very naive, but, it was quite an education going into New York City, but I was there at the greatest time in the world. What's
going
that?
Alone is crazy.
Yeah. Well, I was dating a girl that lived out there, and she was in Midtown. And so, we had been a long distance relationship for like 3 years. And so, I mean, she certainly was part of the reason why I was going there, but I was still quite driven on my dream. And so, but within 2 months, she kicked me out.
She's like, wait, I like the long distance better.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's very unfortunate. I was still very much fresh out of college. I was in New York City. My foot hit the ground. The pulse lit me up. I was alive. I was out partying, seeing everything. And, she lived there. She was over it, True. And so my lifestyle did not match our relationship, and I had to go. So then I ended up finding a place on the Upper West Side, further up from there, and the journey continued.
That's unreal. So you go to New York, then you do the commercials, you build this reel.
Yes.
And then you're on a set. So what do you remember was like? Was it a movie? Was it an episode of a TV show? One of the when it comes to say doing a feature film, and I was doing a lot of stuff out of backstage at the time. Oh, so I'd look up backstage, and if there was anything on there that said pay, I'd submit. So I was and look, I was always auditioning, meaning I not only was I doing commercials, but I was auditioning for theater. I was auditioning for independent films. I was auditioning even for print and go-sees or whatever it would be, for modeling, anything to pay the rent. Look, man, no joke. I had duct tape in my shoes and pins in my jacket to keep it together. I learned how to stretch $10 a week, whatever it was. I absolutely was that quintessential struggling, kind of actor in the beginning. So whatever it was not uncommon for me to bang out anywhere from 8 to 10 auditions a day. Wasn't happening all the time, but it absolutely was happening. And so my last audition on one of those 10 auditions a day, I auditioned for Stephen Mena, the director, for a little film called Malevolence, and which then turned into, Bereavement with Alexandra Daddario and all these things. And it was my first time on really being on a feature film set where, though it was indie, it was pretty chaotic and crazy, but I was working 6 days out of 7, indie film, and it got wild, but that was where I was really kind of learning my chops and being experimental on takes and things like that. And we shot on legitimate 35 millimeter film. So it wasn't digital, and so it was still that era where you got to nail this take. We only have so many opportunities, but things got crazy. That's nerve-wracking, man. Sorry to interrupt you, but that's nerve-wracking, saying hey, basically you got to do this one or you're going to cost us.
Yeah, but look, that's how it had been for decades. That's how it, the infamous Buster Keaton shot where the full house falls over him and he's standing perfectly and he goes, so that, but again, a tremendous training ground, getting my feet wet, learning the craft, and then I went on to do was doing a lot of those classic horror films, Little Aaron Merriweather with David Warwick. Shot for $100K, but looked amazing. Still kind of a little cult classic. And he just kept churning around and digging and digging and digging. And then eventually I did another film where I was able to get, I think once I did this one New York grad film called The Indian Giver, it got the attention of a casting director who referred me. And then I was put in another Avi Kirshenbaum film called Fabled with Devon Sawa from Go, a bunch of other stuff. And then that got the attention of some agents. And then I got theatrical. And that's when I really started getting peppered.
You had that momentum. Well, yeah. I don't even know what to trust on my list anymore because I also have my notes here. But like because of you and the other Brandon, I really don't know what's what. Obviously, I know One Life to Live was you.
Yes, absolutely. So it's just those first few credits were Brandon's things. And after that, it's all me.
Got you. Okay. Yeah. So for One Life to Live,
yes.
Funny. So I got here. This is all the people it says you played was Chuck Wilson Jr., Chuck Wilson III, and Dr. Michael McBain. So
that's correct.
Obviously, like I said, it's a soap opera, and you were jumping on a moving train of a show that was on for 25 years at that point. So take me through that, the auditioning, and just soap operas in general, because obviously those are so different compared to other things.
Yes, they are at that particular time. And I was very snobby about it. I swore I would never do a soap opera.
Oh yeah.
Right. Until I started getting into it. So my kind of launch into that was, I was very early on. I do extras on As the World Turns, All My Children, One Life to Live. And then I started doing under fives on One Life to Live. And I kept going back, Guiding Light. I started getting in front of these casting directors. I was constantly sending them postcards and my headshots and just, this is what I just did. This is what I'm working on. And this is what I'm about to do. And that's my advice to a lot of, new actors is when you're doing outreach to give those three things. This is what I did. Here's where I'm at. And this is what I got coming up. Let them know that you're engaged. So once the opportunity came for Dr. Michael McBain, I created that role as Nathaniel Marston had been getting kicked off the show, brought back by fans, kicked off the show, brought back by fans. And so they had this insane kind of crazy storyline where Nathaniel's character dies and he goes to heaven. And if he can come back to earth and influence somebody without a soul to do three good things, he'll be able to reincarnate in that body. So I play this jerk, white collar, just, putz of a guy. And every so often he comes in and he influences me and he says stuff to me to kind of course correct. It's so ridiculous. But I mean, so you do that shot where you're looking in the mirror and then they cut and then it's Nathaniel's face, but then you cut back to me and it's me. So anyways, that's when I started going, okay, this is what it's like. And what you must know, and you probably many do now, but when it comes to soap acting, if you're a series regular, you're cranking out sometimes 60 pages of dialogue a day. It is nuts.
That's
and
wild.
So we had scripts hidden all over the place. And if you're a recurring character, they do not have the time, and you don't have the authority to say, can I do that again? It's you better nail it because this is about the supporting characters, right? I'm sorry. This is about the series regulars.
Yeah.
So that's where I really honed in, not only my memorization and focus, and you've got to hit marks, you got to hit your mark for a 3-camera, 4, 5-camera shot, understand where everything is. And really you got to nail it. And so it's high stakes. And that's when I gained so much more respect for that world, because I had just had no idea the amount of how hard they're truly working. And at that time, you could make some serious dough. So as a guy that was stretching and felt like he didn't have anything, then to step into a recurring role with a recurring paycheck. And ironically, I had lived on Columbus Avenue, 3 blocks up from ABC. And I used to walk back and forth all the time going, I'm going to work there one day. One day, I'm just going to walk to work. And I did.
That's so cool.
Pretty spectacular. And then the crazy thing is, jumping ahead, Chuck Wilson III, how that comes about. In 2006, I get pulled out to LA to sign with a talent agency. They're a bi-coastal talent agency. I had just booked this massive campaign for Nokia, and I was going to be the next Can You Hear Me Now guy or the Verizon guy. So I created a character named Phil Blitz, and I went to Amsterdam and Spain, and I shot this massive campaign. This was going to be life-changing. Like, I was brought into a boardroom. I sat with all the agents. They pushed over the contract, and they said, Brandon, if this thing goes, your life is going to change forever. And I put everything I could into that opportunity. And unfortunately, Nokia's president said this campaign is going to just cost hundreds of millions of dollars. We're not going to do it. So they canceled it. They crushed it. But it got the attention of the West Coast reps because it was a bi-coastal agency. And they pulled me out to Los Angeles. And they said, we want you to come into our boardroom and do an audition. And we want you to audition in front of the entire agency. And so I said, okay. And they thought I was going to come out and do this really kind of funny, comical monologue. And I decided to do the character of Bickham from Does a Tiger Wear a Necktie? And that's what got Al Pacino his very first Tony Award on Broadway in 1968. And it's kind of a famous monologue, but it's super hardcore. He plays a heroin addict, and he's confronting with the psychiatrist or his treatment guy about, his relationship with his father. And it gets really crazy. I mean, you're crying, you're punching the floor, you're spitting. It's super intense. And so that's what I hit him with. And you could hear a pin drop in the room, and they all were just like, could you step outside, please? And so I went outside and I sat there and I was like,
I didn't get it. Yeah.
And then they said, Brandon, can you come in? And I came in, and they're like, we haven't done this in 9 years, but we are going to sign you on the spot.
Wow.
And I said, really? And I lied to him. And I told him that I lived in LA, and I don't live in LA. So then I'm like, oh my God, what am I going to do? And I was working on a show at the time. I was hosting a show called Cool in Your Code in New York City, little WNBC show, go to all the boroughs of New York City, infotainment show, probably one of my favorite shows I've ever done. And I said, I had 2 episodes left to do that. Can I go back real quick, finish those episodes, and I'll come back to LA? And they said, sure. So I literally ran back. I did complete those 2 episodes, but I had to pack up my entire apartment and then yet again catapult myself to the West Coast and get out there and doing it. So I land in the West Coast. A month into living here, I get an opportunity for another audition for One Life to Live. And this time it's for this character named Chuck Wilson III. There had been various Chuck Wilsons throughout the lineage of One Life to Live. He's this Texas ranch hand. And so I go into Mark Teschner's office and I do the audition. Tape goes to New York. Julie Madison gets it. They call my agent. They're like, we want to fly you out to New York. We want you to screen test for the series regular role. Okay. So I go back.
Now I got to go back where I just was.
So I go back to New York and I screen test alongside John Brotherton. And John was a great guy. And inevitably, John did get the role. But what they said is that my audition was so good and so strong, they literally just offered me this recurring role of Chuck Wilson III. So John got the series regular role, and then I was doing Chuck Wilson III, flying back and forth, shooting stuff, and that was my kind of thing to get going into the world of soap operas. But then
and such a soap opera like fashion, like someone playing multiple characters, because I know that does happen a lot.
Well, it's super weird to create 2 separate recurring characters on the same show. That's very rare.
Yeah, that part
very
is
rare.
Yeah, okay.
So I went from like this white collar jerk, kind of like a Grey's Anatomy type doctor, to bearded, ranch hand guy. I literally went into Frank Valentini's office before my very first episode of Chuck Wilson. I was like, so, like, do you want me to do a Texas accent, or like, what am I doing? Nobody told me anything.
Wow. Just, hey, come on in at this time. What's that? I said, yeah, they just say, come on in at this time. And
exactly. No, yeah, totally. So if it's hard, it's out on the internet somewhere, but if you literally see my very first day on set for that character, there was so much exposition to try to set up who I was and why I was there that it was just it was just pages and pages of dialogue. And I remember being behind the door, waiting for my call. And then I enter the room, and the first thing that kind of comes out of my mouth was this Texas ranch hand kind of guy. And how's it going, man? And I talk like this now. And I had not practiced it or rehearsed it. It's just like, that's what came out. And so I had to stick with it.
I just say then you screwed yourself because you got stuck with it.
Yeah. I mean, my God, I wish Yellowstone was around by that time.
And the 10 spin-offs that followed.
Man.
Unreal. So you played these characters or character for 5 years.
For a while.
How and when did you know it was the end?
Interesting. Well, it's the end when the phone stops ringing and they say, what happened? Going back to Michael McBain, they were like, I don't know why. Rarely do you ever get a direct answer as to why you're not asked back or what happened or whatever. But storylines change; they flip. Things are crazy. And candidly, like I was also once I finished Chuck Wilson, I go back to LA, and now I'm booking other jobs. Right. So not only am I acting, but I'm also starting to really jump into the world of television hosting. And so now I start booking shows for HGTV. Or my very first show that I booked as a host in Los Angeles was for G4 TV. And at the time it was just with this new actress called Olivia Munn, and John Ryber, the head of the thing, said, "Hey, Brandon, I want you to meet our new host. And there's Kevin Piera, and you guys are going to be kind of really starting to launch this network." And so I met Olivia, and we did Formula Drift together. And so I was working on that. So sometimes like it became very difficult to align schedules to fly back and forth to New York. And then I got an HGTV show right when I got out there, like I said. And so like my schedule started getting so crazy. And then my theatrical agents got very frustrated because I was booking so many hosting things and I was traveling all over the place, turned down. Candidly, I think at that time, They were the ones that got me, the Disney stuff. But part of where I'm going with this is that G4 audition was with a casting director named Brendan Blinko, who I knew for years in New York. And so when I came out there, I'm like, "Brendan, what are you doing here?" And he's like, "What are you doing here?"
Yeah.
And so that helped. And then also, transitioning over to Hannah Montana and that whole thing, I auditioned for Howard Meltzer. And I used to audition for Howard Meltzer theatrically in New York City. Now he's out there. So a lot of these things were like serendipitous or synchronistic, like all these things were happening. Now that doesn't mean like I still have to go in and crush it. Like you can't, even though you know them, like, but yeah, that whole thing was wild. I was shooting an HGTV show, got the audition through August Kammer at the time. My agent said, "Go in." I'm like, "I'm on set." He's like, just go to this audition." And then so I finished my shoot in Calabasas, cruised into Hollywood, went to Bronson Studios, auditioned for Howard, went really well. He said, "Stay right here," grabbed me, brought me into Michael Poyer's and the creators of Hannah Montana, and goes, "Do it again. Do that again, what you just did." And I was like, "Okay." So I did it all over, and they're just like, "Amazing." And that's how I got the role of Brian Winters for Hannah Montana.
Now, this makes so much more sense because you were doing all these hosting shows that later on Disney, Hannah Montana, and Shake It Up, you're playing hosts.
I'm a host.
That makes so much sense now. Obviously, I didn't know that 20 years ago when I'm watching these things as a kid, but that makes so much sense now.
But trust this, like I never, ever wanted to be a host. I never studied to be a host, like nothing. I didn't do any of that. And it goes back to that show, Cool in Your Code, which is what was my very first hosting opportunity, because I had done multiple commercials for a production company called The Concept Farm. And they approached me and said, "We had this idea for a show. Do you want to host it?" And I'm like, "I'm not a host. I'm an actor." And they're like, "Well, just be you." And I'm like, "You sure?" And they're like, "Yeah." And so I started building this reel. And then
that makes so much sense now.
Yeah. And then my agent, Mark Turner at Abrams at the time, started pushing me out, and I booked my first 2 hosting auditions immediately, and that really kickstarted things. So I was, it was crazy.
Yeah. So obviously Brian Winters. Now, the thing about Brian Winters is he's only in 3 episodes of Hannah Montana, but maybe besides like Miley telling the world who she is, I think the episode you're in may be one of the most pivotal parts of the storyline of Hannah Montana, which we will get to. I know I mentioned it in the intro, but you quickly kind of mentioned the audition and stuff, and then you got brought into Michael's office. I've heard that like Disney auditions are just like, for lack of a better word, different than other ones. Did you sense that at all, or did it kind of just seem like another audition to you? Because they were such a behemoth and like machine at the time that like.
Well, yeah. And here's the one of the hardest things for actors and certainly young actors to overcome. We've all heard the idea of just like, you got to walk in like you don't care, man. Like you just don't care. Like you don't. And I'm like, how can you tell me not to care about something that I'm so incredibly passionate for? And also, like, I just don't get it, but I learned what that meant. But it's about confidence. It's about being prepared. And it does. And this is true for any audition as you start to get closer and closer to the role. So you'll start off going into the room with just the casting director. Then you'll start off going in and maybe another casting director. But then once you start getting into the network, when the producers start coming in, head of networks there, like, the butterflies can get going. So at the end of the day, I just say, how do you manage your anxiety? And breathing is everything too. That's a big way to kind of work through that. I didn't have to sing or dance. They just, I was just being kind of goofy. And that Hannah Montana thing, I was also very fortunate where I had a couple gigs. So it wasn't like I was that starving actor who was just desperate. I just kind of went in there with a carefree attitude. And even when I watch back now, when I see that first episode, I really can see how free I am in that moment. It's very playful and fun. Fred Savage was the director of that from the Wonder Years, and he was amazing. But I don't know. They just really created a place for me to just be free. And that is a really wonderful place to be if you can as an actor.
And I talked about jumping on a moving train with One Life to Live, but obviously Hannah Montana was the same, because I think you I don't know if it was the first. You would have been like the second season. You would have jumped in on.
It was towards the end of the first season, and then I came back for season 2. And I wasn't aware. I still
being an adult at the time. It makes sense you didn't know.
Yeah, it's like I was like, okay, cool, we'll do it, and it was a trip. I met Miley and Haley Osment was there, and her dad, and certainly Billy Ray Cyrus, and every day on set, sometimes like I'd walk in for rehearsal, and there'd be like these 3 guys hanging out, and I'd be like, "What's up, Miley? Who are these guys?" And she'd be like, "Oh, they're a new group called the Jonas Brothers. This is so-and-so." And I'm like, "Oh, really? Okay. What's up, dudes?" And they're like, "Hey."
Unbelievable.
But
then it ended up being an episode later on.
Yeah, it's nuts, dude. Like it's crazy.
Yeah. And I remember at the time, like being a kid, obviously then like the first thing I saw was like Year 3000 or like SOS from the Jonas Brothers. But then it didn't take long when it was like, woof. And then they friggin' exploded.
Well, that is also part of the power of Disney too, is that once you do get to, certainly when you're on a number 1 show, Hannah Montana, Shake It Up, like when you're globally on a number 1 show and it explodes, certainly for Miley, wow. But even looking at Bella and Zendaya and just how that just catapulted. It got really crazy. I was nowhere near as massively famous as those women were. But there were times in Hollywood where I'd literally get chased. Like I'd be booking down the sidewalk on Hollywood Boulevard, ducking into souvenir things. Like things got a little intense for a while.
I mentioned it a couple of times, but you were in the Friends-esque type scene where Jake Ryan accidentally says Miley's name instead of his dates when he says about having a crush on her. Obviously, like when Ross says about Rachel. Now, it was funny before I messaged you a few weeks ago. Like my wife and I, we watch Disney Plus all the time, Hannah Montana, Sweet Life, etc. We were watching Hannah Montana, and that scene came up, and I always just remember when you go ooh, and you do that like finger thing.
That thing turned into a freaking meme, and the story behind that was I literally the creators were like, give us 3 or give us 4 in a row of like crazy expressions. And so it was okay, action, did something, cut, and again, and ooh, like all these, and that you just rapid fire again, something new, different, give me something else. And for some reason that one stuck and then turned into like a crazy meme.
Well, it didn't help that like in the scene too, Miley keeps rewinding it, and then it keeps showing you doing that thing.
I know. That was crazy. That was pretty funny. And to that point, Brian Winters was, that really kind of was, I believe, sort of the birthplace of Gary Wilde, and it was starting to percolate there. I was asked back a couple times to do more episodes, but they started stunt casting, so they would cast Nancy O'Dell, or they somebody else that was just higher on the food chain, and not uncommon. But eventually, like I said, then I got my opportunity for Shake It Up, and I'll tell you what, the Shake It Up episode, the Shake It Up audition was bananas. And I say that because I had originally gone in, they shot the episode, and there was already a guy that had the role of Gary Wilde. And I saw the pilot, and he did phenomenal. He was great. I don't know why they didn't continue with him, but for some reason they recast it. So I went in and I auditioned for Gary Wilde, and it went okay. I didn't necessarily win the room, but it wasn't bad, but it wasn't great. And it's got to be great. So I left, and I remember this gentleman went in who was quite short, and he had gone in right before me, and he had them in stitches, and they loved it. They loved him. And then I went in, and I didn't get that reaction. So I left, and I was like, And about a week later, it was a Thursday night, I got a phone call from my agent at like 5:30, and they're like, hey, we have an emergency producer session down at LA Center Studios. Can you get down there in 40 minutes? Oh, and by the way, here are the sides. Please re-audition for Gary Wilde. And I'm, wait, what? So I'm literally going down 101. I'm literally memorizing my lines as I'm driving. Okay. And I get there, I go in, but this time, I don't know, man. Maybe I was more tan. Maybe I just looked the part better. And I went in and did it pretty good. Went good. And I was like, hey guys, see you later. And I left. And I just went home, got home like 6:30, went to the gym. I was just like, what up? Screw it. I get out of the gym. There's like a billion voicemails. It's my agent. It's casting. It's Disney. It's blah, blah. They're like, okay, we need you on set tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. Oh, and we also need you to reserve the next 13 weeks of your life. We'll see how it goes. You're doing a network run through, and we're going to see. Bye. Now, at the time, I was already hosting a show on USA with Jeannie Mai called Character Fantasy. And yet again, we had 2 episodes left on my contract cycle. Now, my agent hosting is in New York City. I'm in Los Angeles. It's 10 o'clock at night. I can't talk to anybody. So I say, okay, I'm going to go for it. So I go in, I meet the cast, I do a network run through in front of the network, and it seems to go okay. They approach me and they say, okay, come back Monday for a taping. Okay, cool, great. Do I have the job? Come back Monday. And I come back Monday. And in that time, I have a discussion with my hosting agent. I explain the situation, and they never truly told me that I got the job. They just kept bringing me back every single week and just adding more episodes and episodes. And it really wasn't until episode 28 where I turned to the EP, Rob Lauderstein. I said, Rob, do I have the job? And he's like, oh, yeah.
What an unsettling feeling that is.
It was weird. It was that first season we had Shelley Jensen directing those first like 10 episodes. Shelley Jensen was director from Friends. I mean, they were so meticulous about how everything had to be. I mean, God bless the dancers. I mean, Bella and Zendaya, not only acting, but learning choreography, Rashawn, like all of them. So much work. I can't emphasize how hard those kids worked. And all of us did. But we knew we had something special. So
I was just going to say that because that show was really, and I'm not just saying this because you're on here, that show really was different than a lot of the other Disney Channel shows. Like, there was not that same formula in the other ones.
I agree.
Yeah. Like,
I mean, Rob and Zendaya tried to do it again with Casey Undercover, and that had some success, but there was something this didn't pop the way that Shake It Up did. And I think that show could have gone on for many, many more seasons, but I do believe it was also so just incredibly expensive to shoot it. And I know that the girls were starting to become massively famous, and every single week there'd be some massive director on set. I remember one day going to a table read and like looking over, and J.J. Abrams is there, and he wants to like put, Bella in as the lead in this film, but they won't let her go because she's contractually locked. So by the time we got to the end of third season, I just think that the girls were just ready to go on to do other things, and it was just too expensive to keep them, so it fizzled. But better to go on a high note.
Yeah, well, yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, but like, I mean, you talk about Zendaya, like the career she has, like currently right now, like Spider-Man, she's still in those, the Dunes. She had a singing career, The Greatest Showman. Like it's endless, and it's still going. And like obviously, maybe Bella's wasn't as big, but like she was no small fish either. Like
she was the most established actor out of all those kid actors when she came. I mean, she'd been working since she was like 4. Like when I was playing hockey, she was acting, and she had solid credits all the way until she got that, I mean, look, the industry has its trappings, and there are good people and bad people in it. And you have to be very, very, very careful around who you spend your time with. And I think that perhaps maybe Zendaya's team was a bit more protective around her. I know that Bella had a team, and I think at times she probably, I mean, I'll never speak for either of them, but I think that she just probably, and it happens to a lot of these Disney actors where they get to a point where they just want to they want to shed the skin of the Disney stuff and go on and do something much more different. And Bella went that direction and tried to probably find a little bit more authenticity of who she is and what she wants to do. And it wasn't in alignment. And we grow up and we have to evolve. And so things go different ways. And I think at the end of the day, I pray that she's still happy and she's healthy, and we haven't been in touch. I haven't talked to either of them for many years, but obviously everywhere you look, there they are. Certainly Zendaya. I'm so proud of her. Really just, it's incredible to have been there at the beginning, and you did see it. You knew that there was something special there.
So. I was just gonna ask, like, relationship wise with you and them on set, was it like you were like a cool uncle type, maybe more of like a dad type thing? Like, what was those relationships like?
Yeah, I mean, I do within the show play sort of their boss, right? But then inherently you do become, and I'm much older than them at the time, so you inherently and the network does sort of lean on you a little bit. And I know you've interviewed other actors that played fathers or adult roles on those shows. And you have to be a role model. You need to sort of set etiquette, and hopefully, be cool enough where you can still hang, but like not be weird.
Yeah, 100%.
So, but I cherish those days. It really was a very, very exciting time for me. And it was the springboard for many other opportunities that did come a year or 2 years later after that.
How much Ryan Seacrest did you bring to Gary?
I know. I'll never escape the Seacrest stuff. And I always say, look, like I never aspired to be Ryan. I never tried. We just have, I guess we just have a similar energy and most certainly a similar look. I have been at times his stand-in. When I was first in LA, I was a stand-in for a Details magazine shoot. I've been around him, his team. I don't know. It was never my intention. It was really just me. Like, I'm kind of like that. It just turns out that Ryan became massively famous before I did. But if I had his shot and his connections, I probably, they would be calling Ryan, "Oh, you're trying to be Brandon Johnson."
Yeah.
Maybe not. But I mean, look, he's a powerhouse. He's phenomenal. He's incredible. I know stories of times where, when he's going through American Idol and they're doing those live finales, they're doing those live shows. And I worked with some of the stagehands, and they're like, you have no idea what Ryan can do, in the sense where we've had teleprompters go out live and you would never know it because he's so good. He's so pro. He can stall and make you think like everything's under control. He's got it. I've been in those situations where, there's definitely a lane you need to stay in. You can't stray. If it is teleprompter and the thing goes down, and then you tap dance. So I actually one point I tested for Fox. If Ryan chose to not come back for his role as American Idol, I was up. I almost got it. Wow. So I've tested for him. I've tested for Phil for American Race and for Jeff Probst for Survivor.
Unbelievable. You got the hosting bug in you, man.
I thought so. It's been a minute, I did get to do some pretty incredible things in that world, working with TNT and doing 72 hours and traveling the world. And that was the project of a lifetime.
Do you ever think about, like, someone like me? I'm going to be 30 in about a month and a half. Do you ever think about the fact that you were a part of so many kids like me, like after school rituals?
I don't. No, I don't. I mean, I guess I'm a little bit more removed from it because I'm not necessarily as in the scene anymore. And for a long time, I had a beard and I was a little bit more incognito and stuff. Now I'm clean shaven. I get recognized a little bit more here and there, but I do get the DMs. I do have people reaching out to me on Instagram and X or whatever it may be, Facebook, and every so often you get that really heartfelt message of how it impacted. And I remember too, when I was in it and you'd be somewhere and you'd have a parent approach, could you please take a picture, or could we get an autograph or whatever, and then you get face to face and you have a visceral experience with your fans and you see how it does impact them. And it's very sweet. And at the end of the day,
that's part of the reason why I do a show like this. I always say no one misses being a kid more than I do. So be able to talk to people that were part of my childhood is always such a treat. Two quick ones left on
Sure.
Shake It Up. So one thing I used to love so much as a kid was always seeing like the crossover type episodes in cartoons or in live action, etc. Shake It Up did a crossover episode with Good Luck Charlie. Now, did it feel like a Shake It Up episode, or did it more feel like you were a guest on another show?
Yeah, I was a guest on another show, but I was still playing the character of Gary Wilde. And the fun thing is that while we shot this episode, it was at LA Center Studios. So we were, I think, stage 5. So we were here, but Good Luck Charlie was here. We were right next to each other. So I could literally just walk over. And we'd always be doing crossovers all the time, meaning like sometimes you'd go over there and you'd watch them, or they come over and they'd watch you. And so it's just kind of this family. And so, yeah, we just had that overlap. It was quick. It was fun. We felt like both shows were quite successful in doing well. So it was a great positive experience. We were working with all the same kind of camera people and directors and stuff. Still think Shake It Up's better. If we're splitting hairs. But
that was one of the best things just as a kid. I mean, obviously I know like shows do it nowadays too, but like just seeing like a character from one of your favorite shows on a show collaborating with another favorite character of yours, like that was always the coolest thing I thought when I was a kid.
Yeah. And still to this day too, we're seeing different crossovers on network shows as well. And as if you stick with the acting thing for a while, you come across many different actors and you see them in different places, in restaurants and bars or social gatherings, or you work with them, and it's always a trip to have those kinds of interactions. And yeah, when they cross over like that, I mean, one of the other cool things was where my dressing room was on stage 5, directly across from there at the time, that's where Mad Men would shoot their shows. And so for lunch, I'd grab a plate and I'd go up there and I'd sit there and I just, oh, there's John Hamm. Oh, there's, I just sit there and this, like, there they are. Oh my God, they're so in dying to be like, oh God, can I please get on that show?
Yeah.
But you do kind of get locked into the Disney world for a while, and it is hard to eventually sort of break out and be taken seriously as more of a dramatic actor. And that came later.
My generic question for you is, if Shake It Up came back 2026, where is Gary Wilde?
That is an awesome question. Gary Wilde.
Because
Gary Wilde works for an insurance company that takes your claims if you have faulty tanning beds.
I like that. Go off the board. I like it.
Yeah, that's what he's got to do, because he did not burn down the Shake It Up studio.
Post Shake It Up, you quickly mentioned earlier, but voice work. So where did the interest in voice work come from?
The entry point to that was back when I was doing my early commercial stuff. It was going in and just auditioning for voiceovers and building a reel commercially. I have always sort of been someone who can mimic or imitate things like that. I also got very deep into ADR and looping. So I would, like, I was Justin Timberlake's voice in the movie In Time. It's things. I've been Dax Shepard in The Judge with Robert Downey Jr. Like, I'll do their voices sometimes. But I don't know. I started really getting into it, and then I started doing series, and then I started doing Titanfall and like big games and things like that. More stressful on vocally. Mm-hmm. It's not like you're doing The Simpsons or something, like more like action, like frag out, get down, go, like a grunt or something. But it's fun. It's just another way of using your skill as an actor. And so either I'm in front of the camera or I'm behind it. I'm behind a mic. However I could do it, I just, again, back to my hockey days, just constantly hustling.
Unreal. Though it's only one episode, you were on an episode of Henry Danger, which obviously is a Nickelodeon show.
Yep.
Let's talk Nickelodeon versus Disney. And if there are any differences that you kind of noticed being on set? I know it's only one episode, but.
Well, I think that, Henry Danger was cool. It was quick in the sense that, yet again, it was one of those things, and that is truly how it moves. It just goes so quick. You go on, you audition, maybe you get a call back, and then you're on set. Like, boom. Wow. It moves fast when they're in it. I had so much experience working on a kid's set and being around that. So it really was very much of a smooth transition. And this was another one of those where this is the first season of Henry Danger. And I remember going into audition for that. And the feedback was that at the time when Dan Schneider saw my tape, because I played like a game show host, he was just like, that's the game show host. That's the guy. And I became Rick Richards for a minute, and it was fun. It was cool. I had a good time. Cooper Barnes was a great guy. And the whole team went quick. I thought I lost my wedding ring on set, and it turned out that I'd already taken it off before I went to set on the last day of shooting, and I freaked out, and I made the entire set look for it for like 2 hours.
Oh my God, that's such a scare. I've only been married for 4 months, but I was doing laundry a couple of days ago, and I guess it fell off as I put the laundry in the dryer. I thankfully didn't start the dryer yet, and I was like, oh wait, and I ran back and I scrambled through the clothes to find it, and I got so scared.
Just don't take it off unless it's mandatory, and just know exactly where you're going to put it at all times. And I called my wife and I was freaking. I'm like, honey, I don't know how to tell you this, but blah, blah. She's like, oh, it's right here. I see it on the nightstand. And I'm like,
yeah, I know. I was just kidding, actually. Oh God, my parents they went on their honeymoon, so whatever. A couple of days after their wedding, they're in Jamaica, and they just get there. My dad goes out in the ocean, starts swimming around. I guess the ring was a little bit too big, fell off, never saw it again. They had to buy a new one when he got back.
Yep.
My mom's never let him live that down. It's been 30 years.
Oh man, that's tough.
Yeah. Obviously, I mean, besides the obvious thing about Dan Schneider, but the thing I noticed about Nickelodeon is that there are so many TV shows were his, and like you didn't see that on Disney. You didn't see one guy creating all of the biggest shows. Now, do you have any idea like why that worked on Nickelodeon, but that never happened on Disney?
I don't know. I think Dan, at that particular time, Dan was creating hits, and they're like, if the machine's not broke, don't fix it. Like, let's just keep going. Let's keep cranking. And he just knew how to do it. And so he really, I mean, Disney was such a massive, massive company way before Nickelodeon ever existed. And so it really kind of overshadowed them with regards to exposure and clout, if you will. But, and I think, they maybe Nickelodeon didn't necessarily have the budgets that, and even if the shows were hits, I just don't know if they had the big budgets the way that Disney could at that time.
Right.
So if Dan was cranking out just amazing shows that were hits, they're like, just keep giving him more opportunity. And that's how it is. I never said a word to the guy. He never talked to me, never said anything. I'm like, nothing.
Now I want to emphasize, though he made some great TV shows, I am definitely 1,000% not a fan of his. Obviously, seeing Quiet on Set a couple of years ago really shed some light on, I guess, the darkness of, and not even meaning to say it like that, but showing the darkness of like what kids shows and just in general could be like.
It is.
Yeah,
it is. It's 1,000% true, man. And
were you completely shocked when that documentary came out and you're like, what?
Shocked? No, absolutely not. No, I've been in entertainment for over 25 years, and I have absolutely seen some horrific things. There have been things that I've been asked to participate in that I have said no. It's a very, and I want to, I tread very lightly on this, but I'm very passionate about it, but because I don't want to tarnish anyone's dreams, but I must prepare you for what you are to go into. I'm very protective about my son. He's been asked multiple times to come into the industry. I will not let him come in. I really won't. I don't want him there. I want him to, first of all, just have a childhood, have a life. Because if you truly want to make it as a child actor, there's no life. That's all you're doing. Like, it's crazy, man. To truly be successful, you do have to become quite obsessive and hyper-focused about it and driven. The skin of a rhino and the soul of a butterfly. You've got to be able to take the hits, but still float and have fun. And it will rip your heart out and stomp on it. And then it will prop you up and catapult you to the greatest heights you've ever experienced. It's really like that. And then if you're lucky and you get that consistency and you're kind of locked in, the way that, say, Zendaya is, that's just the norm. And you're getting these massive campaigns and these incredible movies and these deals and blah, blah, blah. She's got to deliver still. But again, going back to, I was not shocked at all. And I have, seen some things on set that I did not agree with. Yeah,
I definitely didn't plan on bringing that part of the conversation there. But no, I mean, it is important to talk about. Yeah, just because like, unfortunately, like you just said it, and unfortunately, it's not even a strong enough word, but it happens. And
it does.
There's not really words for it.
Look, man, there's. I'll just say this: there's handlers at a very young age, and then there's handlers at my age. Like, they're out there. They're still out there. There's absolutely people of different higher echelons of more power that are working in tandem. Once they see a certain person or commodity, or if there's an opportunity where they can really use this person and put them in a position to make them a lot of money, and also be in a position where they could be compromised to where now they are stuck, and that's what they've got to do. Like, there absolutely is an horrible, dark part of the industry. Yeah. However, it's also filled with some phenomenal, incredible, inspiring, creative people that make your work in those moments of those moments of glory, if you will, like when everything's clicking and it's beautiful and you're creating beautiful art and beautiful work and it's got depth. That is what it's all about.
I love that. Terrible transition. Just a couple last things here.
Sure.
2026 is where we're at.
Mhm.
Let's talk about what Brandon Johnson is working on in 2026, and then I'll ask my last question after that.
Sure. So in 2026, our industry in the last 3-4 years has really gone through a pretty crazy amalgamation, certainly post-COVID and everything. And I had done some feature films for a while, and I was doing some campaigns. I would say in 2026, I started to slowly actually transition away from the industry. I just did a campaign for a law agency, and I'm producing a film right now. And I am also working on development of a new podcast about my father-in-law. There's a bunch of stuff going on there, but I really have, I'm not pursuing entertainment as much as I used to in the way of what I just spoke about. I've put in a lot of time and effort, and I've had to rebuild myself multiple times within my craft. I live in Los Angeles. It ain't cheap. I'm blessed that I've got a house, I've got a mortgage, I've got 2 cars, I've got 2 dogs, I've got a child in private school. All of these things cost money, and they're very expensive. And if you're not working consistently on big shows the way that I once was, it's tricky. So I have actually pivoted more into the world of design. My wife is the CEO and interior designer of a company called Ariel Fox Design. So she does all these incredible multi-family, multi-use, huge skyscraping commercial buildings that you see downtown all throughout the United States. And I'd been a part of her entire build, really, since she started 15 years ago. And I met a gentleman named Eric Lindstrom who creates these insane, amazing, bespoke luxury carpets and rugs. And so we had met, and back in May, one of his people had left. I was in between gigs. He said, "You want to try it?" So I came on board, and I don't know, it really clicked. And so now I'm working with A-listers in a different way. Now I'm working with the best interior designers and creatives throughout the globe. And we are working with high-profile celebrities, athletes, rock stars, and of course, just amazing people that want the best product in their home. So I am head of the LA showroom, and we've got our big opening coming up March 4th, which I'm very excited about. It's going to blow minds. So I don't know. I'm a people person, so it seemed like a good fit. We'll see what God has in store for me.
That's awesome. That's really, really cool. And it must be such a nice feeling knowing you don't have to go and grind so hard to get what you want. You're kind of like, I did that. I get to kind of let things come to me, and I get to choose what I do.
1,000%, dude. Like that's it. You nailed it. I have a choice now.
Yeah.
And I got so fatigued on all of the self-tapes, everything the way that has shifted. You've got to shoot the audition. You got to find someone to read. You got to cut the audition. You got to get it in by this deadline. Blah. It's like I spent more time doing all that crap than just going in the room and crushing it. That's all I wanted to do. Just let me bring in the room. Let me win the room. I want you to see me. And now I'm worried about, is the lighting right? Oh crap. Does the sound suck? And they say it doesn't matter, which is complete and utter, if I may swear, shit. Complete fucking bullshit. They want it perfect. They want their jobs easy. They want to just hand that tape to whoever approves it and gives it to you. And I'm so over it. And this desire, this attention currency of the social media and me, and look at me and blah, blah, blah. I don't know, bro. My frequency changed. It's just not my thing right now. So if I get it. I've had podcasts of my own, and it's a lot of work, man. I get it.
I appreciate that. Last thing, and I ask every guest this. I mentioned how no one misses being a kid more than I do. So I always like to ask, what's the one thing you miss most about being a kid?
I suppose the one thing that I miss and I cherish and honor that I see in my son too is innocence. I sometimes miss that I could still have the innocence of a child because I know too much now, right? But I miss the freedom of being like I wish more of us could be divorced from our devices. I wish that I miss being in my youth of going back and literally just using my imagination to entertain myself and to be with friends and getting your hands dirty. I miss riding my Diamondback BMX and flying off jumps. I miss skateboarding with my friends. And just, again, the innocence of all of that. I do miss that. So I may physically be a certain age, but in my heart, I'm still young at heart and I'm still curious. And that is my advice. Just stay curious and leap and trust that the net will be there.
Unreal. And I'm not even saying this to kiss your ass or anything, but you really do really look the same since the Hannah Montana, the Shake It Up, like 20 plus years later, man. I need your skincare routine.
No, man, there's no surgery. There's nothing. It's just clean living. It's just eating healthy, lots of exercise, meditation. I drink a ton of water.
Yep.
I get out of the shower, maybe put a little lotion on my face, but health is wealth, bro. It's
karma for being such a good guy.
Maybe.
Well, Brandon, man, thank you so much for doing this. This was unbelievable. Over an hour and 15-ish minutes here. So yeah, thank you so much for coming on here. This was awesome.
Thank you, Quinn. I had a blast.
I appreciate it. Well, we'll have to get you back on again when the Shake It Up reboot pops up.
Let's go.
See you later, Brandon.
Okay, take care.
And that was the Quinn Marr Show.